I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. You're like, Mair, you don't read romance books. And you would be right. I have fallen down a rabbit hole. Such a deep rabbit hole. That I have been reading romancy book after romancy book. And I haven't surfaced. Am I now a romancy reader? Maybe. Specific romancy books. Yes, I am talking about a gay romance book that took me by the chokehold. Like, I spent all day on my day off reading 50% and finishing A Strange and Stubborn Endurance. Now you might think, oh, I'm sat on the sofa all day, the house needs cleaning. It's me talking to myself. Everything needs doing, right? But then I went and downloaded book 2. And then I read 50% of book 2 in the rest of the day. And I stayed up past my bedtime. I never did that with a book, right? The only book that has gotten me to do that is a Realm of the Eldlings book and a Stormlight Archive book. And Faith and the Fallen. That's it, right? Usually I'm in bed. I'm an old granny. 8 p.m. I'm out. This is now 10 o'clock when I'm filming this. Having finished this book half an hour ago. And trying to compress my thoughts and thinking I need to tell something about this. Because what do I do with my life? After I finish the series, I don't know. I am missing these characters. I am lost. I am adrift. What I do like is Velosin and Kantari. Why do I like them? Because they're characters. Oh, they're characters. But first, I'm going to introduce you to the premise. That made me, when I read this premise, I was like, boom, yep, I'm going to love this, okay? For some reason, I think I like this trope. So, any recommendations for this particular trope, drop them below and I will gobble them up. Velosin is promised to marry a Tithani, I think I pronounced that right, noble to border an alliance, but his inclinations towards men is discovered. So instead of him being to marry a woman, he now is marrying a man. Straight away I was like, I am sold on that. Like, marrying for an alliance, for some reason I like, okay? And it's kind of cool. But then you switch it up and being like, yay, marrying for an alliance, but why not make it 2 men? And I was like, that is, yes, please, give me more. And this book starts out dark. Like, it starts out with a sexual assault scene, kinda, like, not immediately, but it's like there, and you're like, how is this gonna work? What's gonna happen? Then you go through Velosin, how he's dealing with it and everything, and like, it is a bit on the nose, don't get me wrong, it's a bit on the nose, it's a bit like, this happened, shoving it down your throat, there's no subtlety here, which is fine, to be fair. Like, I'm reading a romancy book. If I want something a little bit subtle, I'd pick up The 7 Moves of Malia Media, right? That might actually not be the right book for that. Ignore I said that. This is what you get when I'm filming way past my bedtime. But here we are. I'd pick up something else. I want something a little bit more subtler, okay? But I found the author, heard it with enough grace, okay? It felt very raw, and probably speaking from the author's own experience, that the Ralians, which Velosin's part of, and who are completely against gay, anything gay, to the point where people are afraid to have close male friendships, which can exist, right? Because people will start pointing the finger and calling them out as gay and all of this. And that is just, it felt real and it was sad. But then you get to Tithani, who's like openly anything. There's so many people who are non-binary in this, like so many people that just automatically like, they this, they're like, yeah, cool, keep it coming. And I loved it. It's just people and queerness existing, and I'm here for it. I am so here for it. Another point I want to point out is that Even though the Iranians are completely against gay people, not one slur was mentioned. Not one. And I'm like, you can do it. I understand people who write these stuff who want to be true to the time, which is fine. And there are places and ways to insert that kind of language, especially into a character, if you really want to show them being the villain, or really want to you know, there's ways to do it. I can go into a complete spiel about it. I'm not going to. What was the weakest part of this book was the world. There is magic in this world, but it doesn't really affect a lot. You can take the magic out and not much would change. So I'm like, why insert it anyway? And it does become a plot point later on, but it's very soft magic, and you can kind of like, oh, okay, like, we're here for the romance, we're not here for the plot, right? But even so, that one little thing, I was like, okay, you can kind of forgive, you know what I mean? Velisson. Oh my god! I never expected in the beginning of this book that, one, it would go to that scene. I was like, whoa, okay, we're opening a dark scene. But Velisson, he was, I felt for him. Like, the reaction he had after that was, again, it's very on the nose. Like, sometimes I think it would have been better to go a little bit more in depth and subtler, but how he was trying to come to terms with what happened, also discovering that his father then discovered his preferences for men, disowned him, and went, you go marry this guy but never return. And like, oh my, like, imagine that. Like, it's horrific. Like, and knowing again that probably has happened in real life, and it just makes me angry and sad and want to hug all the people who suffer like that, because I will be your family if your own family turns you away. And then on top of everything, he's going to this new land, to this new guy. He has no idea what's happening. He's being told about this guy who's big, strong guy, when he's just been sexually assaulted, and you're like, and he's freaking out inside, but can't voice the words of why. He's not sleeping. People are like, do you want rest? And he's like, it's not going to make a difference. And oh my god, I love Velisson. And he only got better. He only got better. Because his characters just, the characters of FOZ MEDDOWS just, ooh. I get them up. Because they're so full of depth. So full of depth. And Velisson especially, like, there's that thing, and then, but then he also knows there's an alliance, but he's also clever. He's also politically savvy in some cases. I'm sitting there and I'm reading Velisson's chapters, and I'm like, I just want, where is this going? Like, when are you going to meet your husband? Because it doesn't, like, this is the thing, again, with some other romancy books, is that it's the premise, and it has 2 chapters, then immediately into the inciting incident. I'm like, or immediately into the premise. I'm like, where's the build-up? Give me the build-up. Give me the tension. This had tension. This had so much tension. Because somebody's also trying to kill Velisson, right? And there's all these plot mysteries going on, attacks on people, and all of this happening. And blaming the White Knife, who happens to be Velisson's new to-be husband. And it's so, it's amazing. But then Cathari. He is my absolute favourite, and I never thought I'd say these words out of my mouth as an asexual woman, but I kind of wanted a spicy scene from Cathari's point of view. I know, but I was kind of getting bored of it always being in Velisson's point of view. From like both books, right? Because Cathari, to me, he was the one who was full of the emotion, right? Velisson had it, okay? But Cathari really had it, right? Normal emotion people are here. That's Velisson, right? Imagine giving somebody a surge of a boost that their emotion shoots off the rail. That's Cathari. And I just loved it. Like, how he just cared, how he knew, and then he... There were so many moments where he was witnessing Velisson at his vulnerable moment, and he was like, no, and he was promising this, and he was doing this, and he's... Can you tell I love the Cathari? He's the dude there for you, right? And the way he just treated Velisson, and like the little moments where he's like, I want to show you around the city, and I want to just do little cutesy stuff, and I am melting, okay, full on melting. I did cry in this. It's not what you think. I cried over a horse. And if you've read the book, it's not in book 1, it's in book 2. I cried over a horse. I know. I'm usually completely against horses in books. They did it well in this. But there was a moment that Velison is gifted. It's a very minor spoiler for book 2. Saying there's no spoiler and then giving you a minor spoiler, it is a minor spoiler. Okay, he's gifted a horse in book 2. And if you know what happened in book 1, and he's gifting the horse and he's having the reaction and everything that I would have. And I just cried. I just cried on a Sunday afternoon, alone in my messy house that needed tidying up that I refused to do because this book needed reading. I just cried. This book was beautiful. Well, both books were beautiful beyond comprehending. Like, not to mention that the characters were so full of depth and emotion, right? But then you have the plot alongside it, okay? Like, the endings of both these book plots, they kind of just felt a little bit too tightly wrapped in a bow. But again, it's a romantasy. I will forgive that because I'm not reading this for the plot. I'm reading this for the romance because I'm in my fluffy era. I'm a little bit here for the plot because thrusting them together, that sort of spark of danger, the tension and the fear and everything happening and learning about his new husband and everything and all of this going on and just saying, I want to be friends, but then, oh, maybe you don't. Maybe I do, but I said this and then there's this going on. Can I do this? All of this. And then obviously you get to book 2 and things get more complicated between the two characters and I can see why people don't like it. I was a bit... I just want them happy ever after. I knew we were going to get that because, again, it's a fucking romance. It got more political in book 2, which I did enjoy. Especially how the political things were set up, right? It was nothing I'd seen before. It was instant. It was cool. It was cool. I liked it. I understood it, kind of. And I'm just not political because I'm dumb. And I like the fact that Velison was the one who was like, I know what I'm doing. I remember all this shit. Cathari is so lost up in his own feelings in his head about events that happened in book 1, but also about Velison. And all of this, and he's so consumed by his own self, which I totally get, because I can get a bit like that he completely forgot what he was walking into, and then he looked at Velison, and Veloson's like, boo, I got you. And the plot for book 2, I'm not really going to tell you much. There's basically people are still trying to kill them, okay? I'm not going to say who. There's multiple people who are. And I'm like, this just seems a bit much. It seemed just a little bit much. And again, coming to discover the end, it wasn't them discovering it. It was just somebody else coming in and then explaining the whole info dumpy kind of thing. But not like in a typical info dump villain thing. There was a twist to it that kind of made it work. But it was still info dumping. I would much rather like them to realise an act rather than somebody else going. But that's just personal preference, okay? I mean, I'm used to epic fantasy novels where the characters do that. But getting back to their relationship, which is what this whole book's point is about. I kind of liked the conflict that was raising up, which was very internal in this, but also combined with confused feelings and lust. Because, again, it's a romantic novel. Of course there's going to be lust. I did like how it was handled, that confusion part of it, especially between them both. Now, this does have miscommunication, but this is how you do miscommunication. You try to talk, but you can't quite get the words out and you can't explain what you're feeling, but then the other person's trying to explain what you're feeling and you're trying to understand, and it's just all getting more jumbled, but eventually it will come out to be something that, okay, maybe we'll start to understand each other. And it's like a back forth. And then you have trauma that appears. Then you have people attacking and fire and things happening. And then there's no place to actually talk because you're traveling with other companions who you don't want to hear you have a private conversation with. And it's just then because you can't talk for so long, it just builds and builds and builds. And it was done well. I will say the representation there is a mute in this, and I love the idea of it. I love Markle, sassy as fuck. Right, he's a mute, right? And they use sign language, in-world sign language. And the amount of times he just smirks at Bellison or makes a snide remark with his... just bluntly says, oh, don't wake me up. And Bellison's just like, boot, like blood red, like, no, what do you mean, what do you mean? Markle just looks at him like... Love Markle. Right, because it's book 2. Let's quickly talk about Aris. It is late, if you cannot tell. Arison? Asarian. There we go. Eventually got there. He was interesting. Like, at first, when I figured out the role he was going to play, I literally went, ugh. No. But actually, how that played out, it was good. It was good. It was really good. I thought the way it was going to go with that plot point, trope thing, between Cathari, Bellison and Asarian, I thought it was going to be, I was going to hate it, right? I thought it was going to be the bog standard, and it actually wasn't. It actually was good. It was handled well. His character was really, really well done. I just miss these characters. I miss this world already, and I don't want to go to bed because I'm out of this world and I feel like I'm grieving somebody that was a family and I'm never going to see again, which is stupid. I know. That's how I feel. But I highly enjoyed this series. I do recommend pick it up, especially if you're like not into romantasy, because the plot is very strong. Like, yeah, the plot and the romance kind of run simultaneously, but it's not a weak plot. Like, you could kind of remove, you couldn't, but it would work on its own, basically. That's how strong the plot is in both books. I love these characters so much. It was entertaining. I loved it, and I already missed them, and I've said that enough times already. And I need to go to bed. I need to go to bed. I need to grieve this book properly, and then decide if I go back to an epic fantasy or another romantasy book. Let me know what do you read my romantasy books? Drop them down below. Would you be interested in reading them? Because read this. It's good. I never expected it. Especially from seeing it online. I never expected seeing that I would love this book so goddamn fucking much. But here I am, screaming about this book. There we go. So, drop your romance recommendations down below. If you don't read romance, drop one where you might pick one up. I don't know. Try it. Urge you. And I will see you in the next one.